meeting of the Groveland Community Preservation Committee here on January 21st, 2016. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's shut that sound off. All right. All right, so at our last meeting, we reviewed a number of projects. I think we had a total of 5 or 6 maybe. And so we've basically reviewed them. And I thought I would start out tonight just by giving you a brief, not so super accurate statement on our financial status. And then, once I get the latest update from Denise, I can email that to everybody. So, there's a total, in the fall, we approved $360,000 for the Pines. So, I approximate with our fiscal year 2016 amount that was collected in Groveland, and then the match that we got, that we have approximately 1.77 million in the fund. But that's an approximate, maybe a little more, a little less. And I don't have the exact breakdown, but before this, the new fiscal year amounts, we had 316,000 in open space, 85,500 in historic, 480 in community housing, and the remainder was in the general allocation, which was about 417,000. And that comes out to be about 1.2 million, and then we got about, between the town of Groveland and the match, we got about 480,000. So that has to be spread across the 3 categories.
Mike, do you know how much we got from the state this year?
I didn't get to check that. I did check it, but I can't remember. It's like, we got the 15th highest in the state, and I don't think it was 100%. It was like, I want to say 60-something. I can't remember though.
200,000 or so probably, plus.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the highest percentage or the highest dollar amount per town?
Percentage.
Yeah. We're right up there with all the little towns in the western part of the state, and mostly because we have 3%. So what I did was, I put the 4 projects that I believe we want to consider funding this evening on this sheet, and the amounts, and subtracting from the available funds, so you kind of get a big picture on things. So, the first, the first project is the Community Trail, Phase 3, and I believe at the last meeting, most people thought that rather than fund that we should go for the entire funding request of 55,300 rather than the 15,000. That was kind of a fallback position. But this will enable the trail to be completed all the way to the Havel border. The next one is a historic documents management project submitted by the town clerk. It's historic. That's gonna enable the whole town to, town hall to better manage its historic documents and legal items, including the software, a server, and scanner for $42,251. The third one is the Johnson Pond Open Space Initiatives. That includes, that's by the Conservation Commission for $73,650 under the open space category. It includes permitting improvements to access to the pond, and both at VZ Park and Lower Center Street. And the fourth one is the Historic Property Survey. That one was submitted by Groveland Historic Commission under the historic category for a total of $12,000. So if we decide to fund all four of these, we would be asking the town to commit $183,201 out of our funds, and would leave us still with approximately $1.5 million in there. There's a couple of the projects have matches, so the community trail, that match is in the overall state match if the trail gets built. When the trail gets built, the, what was it, Mike, 6-1? Yeah, so it's,
1.98 million to build on investment of an overall 350.
yeah, okay. The other one with the match is number 3, the town, the project is actually, excuse me, about $100,000, but the highway department is agreeing to take care of the waste disposal, so that's gonna save $27,000. And on the historic property survey, the state will match our $12,000 funding towards the structures and buildings survey with another $12,000. So that's pretty good. That's a 50-50 match on that one. So, we like to see the matches. Okay. So does anyone have any questions on these or thoughts before we decide what to do with them?
Yeah, Mike, just one comment. So if all of these are approved, it's only about 40% of what we've collected for the year. So for this year,
Yeah.
we would be underspending, what might be termed to be available.
So we're only spending 40% of what we took in this year.
Right.
So, if I understand what you want to do, Mike, we're going to basically vote on each one of these now, that the presentation phase is over and...
Yeah,
Okay.
and, I think this is normally the way we've done it is, approve them, put the warrant together, pass it on to the selectmen, and let them put it on the town meeting warrant. Our job is to publicize what's being presented by whatever group it is and make sure that it doesn't conflict with anything and it meets the Community Preservation Act requirements. So I believe all 4 of these do. I don't think there's any real issues with whether or not they meet the act requirements. They all come in under clearly either historic open space or the community trail is a combination one.
And all four of these are on the website for anybody that wants to
Yes.
actually read them.
Well, actually, I've got to scan in the historic property survey. That one's not on there yet, but the other three are.
The only one I still have some question about is the Historic Documents Management Project. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to get my head around it. Because, and I understand, you know, we wallow in paper and and the whole, one of the premises of this particular project is to digitize so many of our records, and that will help manage the paper,
Yep.
the space, and that sort of thing. I guess the piece that I'm still struggling with is the easier to find and more accessible to the public is the searchability. So we're really talking about scanning the images and putting them online on the server. But explain a little bit more about, is there a database involved with it that is, are we going to take the individual fields within a birth certificate, death certificate, and that sort of stuff, and are they going to be then converted and put into a relational database management system?
Yes. So I'll give you an example. So if you were scanning in birth certificates, anything that's old is a little tricky. So what you do is you define whatever it is that you're scanning in. So hopefully, you know, you got a whole boatload of them that kind of look the same. And you know that on a particular area is print of the name. And you just say you're going to decide you're going to capture the name, first and last name, the birth date, and that's it. So you would kind of take a picture of this, of a typical document and put on there where the name and where the birth date are. So when you scan them, what it would do is it would automatically do an optical character recognition on that portion. And if it could, it would pick up the name and the date. But since the old ones are gonna be handwritten, they're not gonna do that automatically. So what's required then is once the scan is done, it'll pick up all the records, pictures that came out that don't have any information in those fields, and you have to manually go through and read them and put them in there. Once you've done that, and then obviously the newer ones, it picks that up automatically. So once it does that, then you say okay, and it stores them in there as records. So every picture of a birth record would then have the person's first and last name and the birth date on it, which would enable you to search, you know, if you wanted to search by date, or if you wanted to search on a particular last name, would come up with all the records with that last name, and then you could look at the pictures of the scanned documents. So that's pretty much how it works. On the historic stuff, it does require more human input. Later on, when you've got a whole stack of, you know, typed up or printed up documents, are a lot easier to do because you've outlined the optical character recognition portion of the form.
Is there an output side of it in the sense, will we then go to electronic birth certificates, marriage certificates, and that sort of thing, so that there would be a document production side of it that would actually generate that information?
Well, that's somewhat controlled by the state, I understand, a lot of it is. But things that aren't controlled by the state, we could do it, you know. A lot of what she deals with there is agendas, meeting minutes. You know, we could, rather than actually having to scan things in, if you know, I know the commission, we get our minutes typed up and they're in an electronic format anyway, those could go directly to Ann in an electronic format and she wouldn't have to scan them in. So there's there's a lot more flexibility on the newer documents and how you can manage them than the old stuff. But, you know, the old stuff, you get more bang for the buck because you've got these old documents, they're sensitive and there's no real good way to search through them if you're looking for something, you know, so that's where I think, you know, on the historic end, you're gonna be able to protect the documents while making them more accessible.
And initially, then, the town clerk is going to do all this work, all this scanning and so forth?
Yes, her and volunteers. She's gonna work with some of the, senior, volunteers for the tax write-off program.
Because I guess where I'm coming from is from the cemetery. We got the same problem,
Yeah,
almost identical problem, except that we will generate, for instance, deeds to lots, cemetery lots from the software. But we're doing the index right now, the existing deeds. There's a full inventory of all the deeds that exist.
yeah,
And it's exactly what you described. The deeds that appeared in 1910 versus the ones in 1930, 1950, 1980, they're all different. Different sizes, different fields, different information, and so trying to do it it's very labor intensive.
yeah. Well, there's no question does involve a lot of labor, does involve a lot of, manual stuff, especially the old stuff. It's just no two ways around it. So I guess you kinda have to look at it as an investment in the future, because if we never do this, it's always gonna be the same, you know? Because you're never gonna get around that handwritten stuff.
And I see all the advantages of having this capability here in Town Hall as opposed to outsourcing it, which is what we're doing with the cemetery. And the cemetery, it's actually gonna cost us considerably, probably a quarter of what this is going to cost, and it's all going to be digitized outside, but it's, but you're looking for a larger context for this. This isn't just the town clerk's
No.
problem.
Right.
This is the whole town government capability that you're really creating here, is this capability that anyone can use
Right,
for that purpose.
yes. So we'll get more bang for the buck by spreading it across anyone, who, you know, any department that wants to put the time and effort into it. The tools will be there to use it, to start, you know, and some may choose to just start using it from now forward, which would be fine. And others may decide, you know, to go back with their records later on. You know, I know conservation, we've got a couple of closet fulls plus about 15 file cabinets full of records. And I don't think we're gonna probably be making those the number one priority. I would be happy if we could put all our stuff on there on ongoing basis and then slowly chip away at the old stuff.
Okay, and then just one final question about accessibility. How then, when you say accessible to the public, once
Yes.
it's all said and done, and I'm the public?
Yes.
I have to then come in here, I assume it's not going to be web-based or anything like that. If I want to find information, I'm still going to have to come in and ask Ann to search it?
No, it can be web-based, and that can be by decision on even as much as a document. So, you know, depending upon the sensitivity and privacy issues, you can restrict, you know, you may not want to put any birth certificates available to the public. You may want to make it that they've got to come in here and either search within the building or have someone search it for them. So you can do any of those three things. So I see that, you know, some of the things like agendas and meeting minutes and plans certainly could be available online. And then other documents, you know, where it may be a little more restrictive, where people can actually come in and use a terminal to search for whatever they want, and then maybe certain things that are very privacy-oriented, we may have Ann just do them for people. So the good thing is, you know, this software enables you to restrict the access to the documents however you find the best way to do it.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thanks. Any other questions? All right. So do we want to vote for these one at a time here? Make a motion one at a time?
Is that necessary? I mean.
No, we,
I was just wondering, I mean, if, it's sort of like a town meeting. you
Yeah,
know,
right.
where you're going through the budget, you know, and you say, oh, I want to put a hold on that one. I mean, does anybody have a hold here? If we were to vote these all at one time?
yeah, no,
I'm-
yeah, Dean?
I'm gonna vote against two of them, so.
Okay, so you want to,
There's two I like and two I don't,
all
so.
right, so
I just-
we'll do them individually then.
3 years in a row, I've been against the rail trail. You don't want me to flip-flop, do you? I mean, I can't stop it, but I mean,
All right, so we'll do each one, because that will give everyone a chance to vote their pleasure. All right, so I'll move that we approve a warrant article for the Groveland Community Trail Phase 3 at 50 feet, 55,300.
Second that motion?
Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
Note B, where is it?
Oh, that got erased.
Okay.
Scratch the B. All in favor, say, we'll raise our hands. All in favor of the Groveland Community Trail? Opposed? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 2, 1. All right. Next, so I'll make a motion that we forward on a warrant article for the Historic Documents Management Project
I'll second that.
at 42,251.
Second.
Any questions on that one? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, unanimous. Okay, next, to Johnson Pond I make a motion that we forward on to town meeting a warrant for the Johnson Pond Open Space Initiatives at $73,650. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, Mike,
Yep.
Mike, I do have a question on that. Just to go back, we talked a little bit last time about the boat launch area, I think it is, on the Center Street side. And that it sounds like in the application, there are two different options relative to that. And it sounds like it could go kind of either restored fully or not so fully.
Yes.
And so how is that decision going to be made, and who's?
Somewhat, see, I tried to keep it open because, you know, there's been questions about what we want to do on Lower Center Street. Some of that's still not settled. The commission is kind of taking it slow and easy to see what effects some of these changes have. They may reverse some of the changes. It just depends on how things look. So I tried to make this proposal adaptable to whatever the commission ends up deciding, because what it's going to do is it's going to enable us to, I would say, it says rehabilitate, but kind of make that area more protected from overuse, so that you know, there's some erosion that's occurring right on the water, and so we're gonna have part of this plan is have a wetland scientist and landscape architect show us how the best way to improve that area so it can withstand more use over there. So whether or not the commission leaves the picnic area and the area over there the same, or whether we put it back or whatever, these initiatives will enable us to do whatever it's gonna take to do that.
I mean, there's been a lot of involvement historically. It was originally an Eagle Scout
Yes.
project, and the
Yeah.
selectmen got involved, and the fire department and
Yeah.
Concom. Going forward, and as far as when those changes are approved, will all of those groups still be involved, or is it really in the Concom's hands mostly, or?
Well,
who's-
it's my
what's the
feeling
vision?
that it's in the Concom's decision, but, you know, it does involve all of those groups. You know, we're trying to get input from the selectmen, trying to get input from the fire department, trying to get input from the scouts. So, you know, I think we'll continue with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I made that motion. Did somebody second that?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of Johnson Pond Initiative, raise your hand, yes. Opposed? One, okay. Abstained, none, okay. 5-1, all right. And number 4, make a motion that we recommend to town meeting the historic property survey for a total of $12,000. Second on that one?
Second.
Any questions on that one? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, unanimous. All right. So the next step is, I'll write these warrants up and pass them on to the selectmen. Usually, the selectmen may want to hear about the projects. I'm hoping that finance is supposed to meet with the selectmen and we can do it all at once.
Does
So-
finance already have these, Mike?
Yes, finance already has these, except I don't think they have this one, so, because I haven't scanned it in yet. So I gotta scan this one and give it to them, but I don't think they've met yet anyway to talk about this stuff. So, I'm hoping that when finance, we can sit down together, finance and the selectmen, and then have the proponents for each one of these projects there to describe them, so everybody hears about what they are.
Does each member of the finance committee have their own personal hard
Yes,
copy?
yes, they
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because there's only 5 members of the finance board right now, so they're down quite a few people. So it wasn't hard to give them the extra copies that I had. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about the process? So we're gonna, you know, push these down the line, and then they'll end up at town meeting, and the will of the people will get voted. So, it does require, you know, support by each proponent. And I think probably, I know the commission is fine. I know Open Space and Trails is used to that. I've got to talk to Ann about that part of it. And Claire, you know about this too, so everybody's pretty familiar with the tasks. The next thing on the agenda, I have the bill for, well, that's not on the agenda, so let's skip that, because I can't even remember the amount of the bill. I'll bring it to the next meeting. The next thing on the agenda is the newsletter. So, last year, we sent a newsletter out in the tax bill, saved us some money. Everything was fine, except one of the articles generated a problem because of the vote to change the amount on the CPA. So, so if this year, yeah, I'm not, don't think there's gonna be a, something, but I think the newsletter should only focus strictly on the 4 projects. That way there, we'll stay out of trouble. And I think the selectmen have to approve whatever we're gonna send out anyway, so, that'd be better that we do that way. Does anyone have any objections to doing this?
The newsletter?
Yeah. It's,
I
the
don't-
purpose of the newsletter is really to inform the public about the projects. Because, you know, on town meeting floor, it's difficult, the more that people know, the better off, I think, the informed voter is a better voter. So, the purpose of the newsletter is really to let people understand and know what the projects are. This year, we've got 4 very clear, easily to describe articles that we can write about the 4 projects, and, you know, I think it'll be a good thing.
I think that if somebody wanted to include a opposition or you know, that it should have equal publication rights, you know,
Yeah,
to that bill. So,
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anyone out there that would, you know, be opposed to any of these, but maybe we could have the for and against. You know,
yeah,
We don't have any ballot questions, so,
No,
because those are
right.
prohibited from
right,
the
exactly.
mailing. The
Right.
town meeting warrant is different. But, you know, I'm all for pros and cons if somebody wants to, you know, I don't know if it'll be in the same newsletter, or you could have another insert in the tax bill, but certainly I would suggest that to this board and even the Board of Selectmen. So there's a balance.
Yeah,
Similar to what you did, Ed, I think it was before, it was on candidates night, I think.
yes, right,
Yeah.
right.
So there was, you know, somebody get up and spoke for one group, and somebody got up and spoke for the other group, so, you know, if no one's opposed, then I guess, you know, you put through the warrant and what you wanna do,
Mm-hmm,
right?
yeah,
But in candidates night, we're not talking about
A ballot question.
just the ballot question. We're not talking about individual discussions in candidates nights or presentations to the voters about these articles. No, last year, I mean, the controversy was about the 3%.
Yeah, and it was a ballot question, so legally that wasn't permitted to use, taxpayer resources to
Right.
do that mailing. Newsletters can be sent out,
for the warrant articles.
for the warrant articles. That's my understanding of the law.
Yeah,
But we're not going to involve at candidates night with each of these projects
no,
at all.
No, I
no,
didn't mean,
we
I
never
was, I
have.
was just using that as
Right.
an example. There was a opposition to it. If somebody was opposed to any of these that's listening, would they have equal opportunity to use the tax bills as a, you know, free postage
yeah,
to hit their audience? So I just like a, you know, equal opportunity if somebody out there wants to. I'm not saying we have to marry that into the, say, pamphlet, but you could put 2 pieces of paper on the envelope just
Yeah.
as much as one.
yeah,
So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be somebody out there that's passionately against some of these things and might want to be heard, and I think that's, I'm just throwing that out there for
Sure.
discussion.
Is that legal to do that? To have a
A
pro and a
citizen at
con,
large do it, you mean?
and then have the taxpayer
Yeah.
payers pay for that?
I don't know. We could, run it by
You might check it.
town council, you know, I don't wanna,
I know that what we've sent out in the past is supposed to be just factual in
Yeah.
nature.
right.
No positive and no negative, just really get the facts out there so people can then make their own decisions.
That's,
But I'm not sure if,
no, that's a great point. If you're generic, this is what the warrant is,
right,
and you're not advocating and spinning it, and then I think if it's the raw information, then you're absolutely right. And then we could just do that
without any bias one way or the other.
right, without advocacy. I
Right.
think where you cross the line into advocacy, that's where you're kinda not supposed to do it, you know? So, maybe if it's not gonna be an advocacy letter, then,
Yeah, no, they're usually not, you know, they're usually brief descriptions of the project from from the proposals, you know, I'll just pull out of them what I can. And, you know, they are positive if you read the proposals, they're, you know, they're positive, they don't usually talk about the bad stuff about it.
understand.
So, you know, to that effect, but, I'm trying to think, I don't know.
You brought it up, we're talking about it, right?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of an example of what would be considered biased, on, you know, say any of these projects, you know, to say like,
I think if you were arguing it's a good use of taxpayer money, you start going down that road, then, you know, if you just say, the committee voted, or the town, if you approve this, you're voting for
Yeah.
paying for the final phase of the rail
yeah,
trail.
describing what it is.
Descriptive, what you're voting for.
Yeah, that's usually what I do on the, you know, on the articles that are focused on that.
You know, without being too colorful about how
Yeah.
wonderful everything is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can do a two-page newsletter that strictly talks about the facts on each one of these four
Raw
proposals,
data.
yes. And not put anything else in about CPA, nothing
How-
except those four.
How great it is.
Yeah, well, no, but you know, I mean, I am a
It-
firm believer in CPA, so I'm more
understand.
than happy to say
I
how I
understand
think
that.
it works.
I
but-
understand that. I don't wanna put a negative tone on it, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that we did have a ballot question
Yeah.
last year. But for 17 votes, I mean, there was a divided town on the issue, so
Yeah.
that the other 49% of the population has concerns too, so, I recognize that. That's all.
Yep, okay.
And then,
And certainly, you know, if there's anyone watching it that wants to send us their own statement about it, you know, we could consider how we would publicize it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it would go to the BOS, and
Yeah.
then maybe it would get QC'd with town council if there was an issue.
Hmm.
So we don't violate campaign finance and
Yes,
other laws,
yes, we don't wanna do that.
well,
yeah.
bad things. Do it right?
Yes. All right. Does anyone have anything else? So, I don't think we're gonna have to meet again. I think we're all set. So we may be able to not meet until, you know, later in the summer or early September.
Well, procedurally, I mean, when you send the warrants to the Board of Selectmen, does the whole group come before, or do the separate groups come before and stand up
Usually
at the
that's-
podium and make their sales pitch to the BOS?
Yeah, usually that's what happens.
Because I wasn't part of that last
The
year.
individual proponents of the, you know, might be there to say a few words or at least answer questions.
Okay.
But in the beginning, the whole idea of this committee was that there's a rep from all of the pertinent boards and committees. Like
Yes.
you are the representative of the Board of Selectmen, and that you would, even though you've voted against a couple of the articles, that you would at least be a conduit of information about them. And
Yeah, I'd like, you know, I mean, the cameras are on, and that's, you know, new in the last few years, and that's good. So if we could have debate on all issues, pros and cons, so the more people that are watching, they're gonna make an informed decision. So, might not always be popular to hear the opposition, but it doesn't hurt you to hear it. If you already made up your mind, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think we bring it forward. The Board of Selectmen, I mean, there's 5 there. I think, you know, I don't speak for them, but I'm more than likely their attitude is, you know, get it before the people and let them decide. And that's kind of the theme of what I've heard. Part of what I think, and this is my personal opinion, is if it's a double-edged sword. If you put everything before the people at town meeting, I think it almost comes with the inference that it was endorsed and supported by all those that put it on the ballot before town meeting. So somehow, some way, because I could be in favor of letting the people vote on something, but I can be against it myself.
Right,
You with
That's
me?
the way it should be.
right.
But somehow that needs to be expressed, that I may be against it for, you know, these reasons. But you know what, I'm not gonna decide for you.
Right.
So
I like this-
I believe in the, you know, but in the past, and maybe it's because they didn't have any opposition, I've heard, you know, Board of Selectmen, how do you vote? Positive resolution. Well, it could be 4-1, it could be 3-2, it could be, if the dissent doesn't speak up and say, well, the board puts it before you, but that's not necessarily, we're saying it's a good idea, so I think that could be articulated at town meeting.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe we just say,
Unless,
as our board,
unless
it
the
meets our
group there is,
criteria.
you know, move the question, and then you don't have the debate, which can happen at town meeting too, so. Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, we can handle that. You can't move the question necessarily at a Board of Selectmen. They could try. So hopefully everybody tunes in to the Board of
Yes.
Selectmen meeting,
Right.
when all of the groups come before on the warrant, and that debate can be heard at that time.
Yes.
Because, I think there are other members that are concerned about money and what are we spending our money on, and I think the taxpayers need to hear it. So that if the town does want to spend money, the people can decide if it's a good use of funds, or maybe we should just save it for something
Yep.
better or something else you want.
Okay.
All of these projects are optional.
Oh, yeah.
To me, these are the accessories. you know.
Right.
We don't have to have these things, but they're good things, right? That's all. I'm
And
not gonna.
plus, there are areas that there's no other place to
Did I
get
address
this
your
money.
issue?
Yes, you did, thank you. Yeah, I think I was concerned about, last year was a just frustrating year. That, all these sponsors come in and they make these formal presentations, and we deliberate, we spend all this time hearing these proposals, and the sponsors put in their best effort to bring it to everybody, it's all televised and so forth. And then the Finance Committee and the BOS to some extent said, no, we want our own presentations. And so, so the Finance Committee wanted to have their own hard copy of every single proposal, even though there's a member of the Finance Committee that's sitting right here at this table.
But let me ask you this, not everything in the past has been televised. I mean, there are committees that, and it's tough. I mean, if, like our last meeting was not on,
Right.
right? And there was a lot of information at that meeting.
Unfortunately, yes.
I think there was more information on Rail Trail, certainly far more than there was at this meeting.
Right.
There was comprehensive discussion.
Yep,
People didn't get to see it.
right.
So, that's lost. That's lost in space.
No, I understand, I
And
agree.
the only way to relay that is secondhand information. I was here, you were here, but no one else
Right.
heard that discussion. And that, we got into nitty-gritty questions about funding and federal funding, state funding, There was a lot of information there that, how do you get that to the Board of Selectmen? So I understand your point. It's almost like it's redundant. You want us to do it 3 times or 4 times, right?
But at the same time, you want the public to be on
So,
board, and
but-
they've got the
but-
information to
right.
make the vote.
Right.
And I understand that completely.
And I
believe that.
see it in a positive light. It's not necessarily, oh, the Board of Selectmen, and I wasn't on Board of Selectmen last year, you know. But it's not that, oh, well, we need our own presentation to be satisfied. You can look at it as, you know what? If I was selling something, I'd say, I get 3 bites at the apple. I get to give my presentation 3 times and just hammer home my point. So I see it positively that if you could, you know, get before different groups, you reinforce your arguments, and you can fine tune it and get better as you go. So the Board of Selectmen, I don't think is gonna take a lot of time on this. You get a summary, you know, figure out what, these aren't really complex issues. To me, the most complicated thing is the technology. I don't know the technology and all that. I mean, you have more concerns about it than me. I don't spot the issues, you know? I'm looking at numbers. My concern on this, you know, is on the dredging more than anything, and that's what I told Mike about. I'm not convinced that that's the way to go on that Meadow Pond there, is to dredge all the lilies out, so, you know, that'll all get out there. I mean, is that your concern, that I think I've heard the theme is that there isn't enough respect given to the people that put in the man hours.
That's part of my concern, is that, I mean, these people spend a lot of time putting these things together, and they make a very passionate presentation to us and so forth, and then have to do it again and again. And I just, maybe that's the way it has to be in government. Maybe that's just the way the decision has to, decision-making.
Let me ask you this, and again, because, you know, I want to listen and be open-minded, right? But let's just say I worked on something for 1,000 hours and it's a terrible idea. And to present it to somebody and say, well, I spent 1,000 hours of my life on this, but it's a terrible idea. Can you please respect the time and effort I put involved in it? So how do you balance I respect the volunteers and everything you've done to do your job, but I still oppose
I understand
what.
what you say, but
So-
the point I'm making is that
How do you-
most of that's reflected in their proposal.
How do you-
And do people read the proposals? They don't read them, and they don't know what the nits and the grits are.
I understand, but sometimes I think a project, I'm against it in general, so I don't need to get into the details of it, because I'm just against it in general. I don't need to see it in color if I see it in black and white and don't like it. So, and I don't think that's any disrespect for the people that put time and effort into it. It's just a difference of, you know, maybe you're passionate about this, but I think money ought to be spent on something else, that's all. So, I don't know how you reconcile that. I think it's part of democracy, and if you're passionate, you put your time and effort to those things that you're passionate about, whether they come to fruition or not. You take that chance when you sign on to doing what you believe in. Win or lose, you keep fighting the battle. You can't always expect to win, because you put a lot of time into what you believe in. Sometimes you put a lot of effort into something and you bomb. So, you know, but you get a chance to be heard. It gets out there. You don't get shut down in any way in this town, I don't think. I don't think there's any group that can't come before a board and just say, this is what I want to do. I don't think anyone gets turned off or shut out of the system. All right.
Well, I think.
I've
that-
thought,
Because I could.
I've thought it all through. I don't know where to go with that.
Yeah, well, I think on your point, Dan, is, I agree, you know, the more information, and I think that's what we saw last year, you know, kind of reiterated with us, the more information we can get out there, the better,
Yeah.
you know, and so however we can do, you know, with our newsletter, by putting the projects on the web, by photocopying hard copies and giving to finance, you know, doing presentations to the committees that want it. All of those things, whatever it takes is what we should be willing to do, you know, to make sure that everybody's informed to be able to make a decision, whatever it is, you know. I think the worst thing is to make it look like somehow, you know, where some.
I didn't know what I was voting for.
Yeah, and.
That's terrible.
And that somebody says, you know, you know, is this a secret or something, you know, by not sending the information out there,
Like,
so.
yeah, like I've asked you, you know, if you do this meadow project, does that mean you're gonna close down Center Street
Yeah.
later?
Right.
Is it like, get this one going, and then, is it an offset, or is, you know, what, you know, what's the end game? People wanna know what the end game is, I think, on every project.
Sure.
Where are you gonna end up?
Yeah,
And I think they have a right to know,
Yeah.
it's their money.
right, exactly. So, you know, I think in that spirit, you know, this year, you know, we want to get as much information out there. You know, I've tried to cooperate with the finance board more, and, you know, I've told each person here that put these projects together to be prepared to defend your project
Yeah.
and talk about your project to anyone who wants to hear it, you know. So we'll see, and hopefully that'll happen. All right, so I don't have anything else on the agenda, so I think we can adjourn unless somebody has something else. No?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, second? All right, everyone in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone.